greatest podcast in the world.
Yes, but I wanted to do hood rat stuff with my friends.
You don't think you should be punished for all of this?
Just a little bit no video games for a whole weekend. I took my grandma car because I got mad at my mom, and then I saw him have my friend come in, and he smoked his cigarettes. Down here, I yanked the thing.
Holy shit, motherfuckers. This is the Say I Won't podcast, season 5, episode 2. We're on our 59th hiatus of the year. Can't promise consistency ever, but you get episode 2 out of season 5. Either way, mi nombre es Edgar Antillón. Yo soy mexicano. Se me olvidó el sombrero. No traje tacos, pero sí soy mexicano.
My name is Isaac Chase, and my mouth is full.
Nice. That's what she said.
Trying to get my dinner in.
Hell yeah.
So you took a little gamble there, starting the stream before I was on. I like it.
Yeah. I was like, fuck it. Worst case scenario, I could mumble about nothing for 20 minutes.
Nick beat Tad into the show. How's the Wuhan Delta carrying peeps going? I'm pretty sure Edgar already had every variant of this frightful disease.
Probably.
So far, I have not become symptomatic, unlike many vaccinated people.
Yeah, buddy.
I'm kind of thinking about getting that antibody test.
Are you?
Yeah, because apparently my wife had it, and I was definitely there while she was symptomatic. So possibly,
Very likely.
maybe I'm just too awesome for COVID.
Or too retarded for it.
Too retarded. Yeah, not many retards getting COVID. There was Trump.
No, Trump got it.
Yeah, he got it. Lindsey Graham just got it.
Got it.
Gosh, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going to happen. Are we all going to die?
Go down. So, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, can you remember back to when this all started? When you called me and you were like, hey, should we be considering canceling classes? This COVID thing is starting to freak people out. And I was like, Nah.
Crazy.
Here we are, what, 15 months later, 16
Million.
months later?
Million months later.
Things are very different.
Super different. Speaking of super different, we deposed two Larimer County Sheriff motherfuckers today. But before that, you once again fell for the trap.
Almost fell for the trap.
No, you fell for the trap.
I fell a little bit for the trap.
So I'm assuming this was stemming from the text that I sent you.
Yes. Was that our friend Richard that sent you that text?
So Richard Fletcher, he loves to fall for this trap, and he loves him some Reddit, and he sent me some text messages from Reddit saying that our friends over at a Reddit page were once again saying stuff about primarily myself, but Guns for Everyone in general. And he wanted me to share that with you. And my reply, I'm gonna read my reply, because this is kind of how I feel about anybody who just follows us just to hate us. So he sends me the text message, and I said, "What will they do when I die? What will their life be like when I'm not around and they can't talk about me anymore? They're obsessed with me. I fear they will be very heartbroken." And then he went on to saying a few other things about what they're saying, and I really want to know. So I asked him, ask them, like for real, like ask them what will become of their worthless lives when I die, if all they do is obsess over my every move I make. I'm that much of an impact on their lives that they have dedicated entire Reddit to me. I wonder if they realize their Reddit is about me. Their own fucking Reddit is about me, not them.
That was poetic, man. I got a little tear in my eye. I like your veiled suicide threat once again.
And it's bonkers to me. It reminds me of that episode where I think Jim, this is from The Office, Jim finds out that Dwight is running a Airbnb. And they start talking about his dreams. Like, in the dreams, I'm not, like, in your wildest dreams, you're still not the manager. Like, you still have to, even in your own wildest dreams. This is what I feel their life would be like. Even in their own wildest dreams, they're still on my heels and having to talk shit.
There's only one reason why I go to Reddit, and that is to pump my own ego by looking at my karma and confirming that I am in fact a good person because I have karma on Reddit. The real reason I go to Reddit is because Reddit is indexed by Google. And so things that are written on Reddit about specific search terms, like maybe Guns for Everyone, can show up on YouTube, not YouTube, on Google. Yeah. And I'm going to put forth at least a half-assed attempt to defend our name on a site that is indexed by Google. That being said, lately it's just been a very minimal effort where, for instance, somebody asked about the lawsuit, and our friend Idiot Face over there decided to interject what he thought the status of the lawsuit is, which according to him, the lawsuit was over with. Larimer County is accepting our certificates, and we have run out of money to pursue legal action against Larimer County. So Idiot Face was wrong once again, and I just made a simple statement. No, that's not true. The lawsuit is still going, and why do you keep talking as if you work for us? And there was another one.
Did you get banned?
No, nobody seemed to notice that one, I guess. The other one was, I don't know, I forget. I know that there was another one. I can't remember what it was about. But this one had the picture. And so out of curiosity, which this is the trap, out of curiosity, I went to go look at it. And I noticed a few things. Number one, somebody had included both your name and the name of the company in the post or in the thread. And the thread was also locked. So interestingly, the thread is locked and several comments have been deleted. But why are you going to lock the thread if you're not going to delete the thread?
Yeah.
If the thread has gotten out of hand and you lock it down, doesn't that imply it's like a failed thread?
Correct.
You know,
It
And
didn't
it's
accomplish. It didn't accomplish what they wanted to accomplish.
and it's disparaging somebody. And so I sent a note to the moderator I've talked to before. I was like, hey, if you're going to leave the thread up, you should unlock it, because that way I can come on here and at least defend myself or defend ourselves.
Yeah.
Or if you're not going to do that, then why leave it up? And so, long story short, he compromised by removing the name Guns for Everyone from the thread. I'm like, all right, that's fair enough. I don't really care after that.
Yeah.
So that's where it landed. The almost falling into the trap was me reposting the image in question with a long diatribe about how stupid everybody is on Reddit. And I almost hit send on it, and I was like, you know what? Let me wait a little bit. Let's see if this conversation plays out. So, yeah, but it bothers me that they have a set of rules that they don't seem to abide by when it comes to one particular dickhead who is a moderator on that subreddit.
Yeah.
And he's allowed to kind of say whatever he wants. And when I go on there to try to defend myself, I'm running the risk of getting banned for just doing that. So, I mean, of course, I'm not doing it very nice. You know, I'm not like, I think we have a little disagreement here, you know. And so that's probably what gets me banned, and you know, on a higher level. So
Yeah. Well, that's that.
that's that. But it's all sort of related to this deposition with Larimer County Sheriff Justin Smith and his concealed handgun permit specialist, who I'm not going to name her just because I feel like it's a little punitive, even though it is public. I feel
already
bad.
named her.
I feel bad for her.
I already named her. We're gonna post the videos anyway. Like the videos are gonna be out there. It is public. Anybody can go watch and read the deposition if they so choose, and then they could watch the video if they so choose. It's not as easy as it used to be, just because it's not in like it's a deposition. It's not an actual courtroom and stuff like that. But the deposition's right there. We are still trying to, in all fairness, we are still trying to avoid the lawsuit. The trial, I'm sorry, the lawsuit's still going, right? We're still in litigation. But we still could avoid that
summary judgment.
Yeah, we could still avoid the trial. And that's kind of why we wanted to do the deposition. This does increase our expenses a little bit with this. But I think it was a smart move. It kind of showed several things, right? It showed a lack of communication between employees within the sheriff's office. It also, we actually got Justin Smith to, on record, say that he agrees with us on the position, that we are correct, except he doesn't want to do it officially. He doesn't want there to be an official court-ordered statement saying that. He just wants us to just say, we all agree, get over it, and that's it. That's not good enough for us at the moment because of the following thing, right? So when Angie goes up, one of the questions that was asked by her attorney is, when was the last time you read the law? And if I'm not mistaken, she said it had been about 7 years since she had read the laws, either the laws or the policies. Either way, she wasn't aware what the laws were. You are the person in charge of concealed handgun permits in the entire county of Larimer, and you do not know what the laws are. So she acted on her own understanding, not even on her own understanding of what the laws are, just her own understanding in general, because she had not recently read the laws.
According to her, 7 years ago.
And when she was questioned about policy, when was the last time she read the policy? She said, I haven't read the policies recently. Our attorney asked her, why is that? And her reply was, because I don't write the policy. So
I like that, actually. I would save me a lot of time in life if I only ever had to read what I actually wrote. If I could ignore everything that wasn't written by me, think of all the free time. It would severely limit what I listen to in music, though.
I mean, disregard the fact that you're the one that is enforcing the law and the policy. Outside of that, like, why should you have to read it? Like, why should you become familiar with the law? And that's unfortunate, right? Because I want to say it's her fault 100%, but I only blame her a little bit. I think at the end of the day is Justin Smith for not saying, hey, do you even fucking know what the laws are? And him just assuming that everybody in that department knows what the laws are. And then that goes to show you that a great majority of the sheriffs that he has out there, deputies, probably don't know what the fucking laws are, what the policies are, because, well, nobody has bothered to train them on what the policies are.
Well, not only that, but if you're operating in a shall issue state as the sheriff, it must at some point become almost a rubber stamp to for the permit application process. I would think, unless anything stands out, it's pretty much a rubber stamp operation. So over time, it's going to get less and less attention, and then something like COVID comes along and disrupts everything. And now all of a sudden we have to pay attention to the rules and the regulations. And when it was mentioned that, in 2013, the law changed and that no online classes were available or were acceptable, the idea was basically, well, that means we just won't accept any online courses, period. And nobody's producing online courses prior to COVID, or at least not anything beyond what the norm was. There's a couple of companies that offer nationwide online courses, but all the sheriffs already know to reject those. So operating on autopilot, who cares? Who cares what the policy is? Who cares what the law is? We already know what we're doing, and we just process as many applications as we can and collect our $100, and that's it. So, yeah. Liberty Bird said Justin Smith is supposed to be a constitutionalist. I don't know where that's written. I don't believe that to be true. Maybe he represents himself that way, but that's certainly not true at all. Yeah. So as soon as I was filming a story about CDC prior to the current, we'll come back to that. Unless that's about.
And I want to kind of also point this shit out, and just before we get into it too much, right? I had sent them an email, right? Since it's all basically public now. And this is kind of where it all hit the fan with Larimer County. So I wrote them. I initiated the contact. So this is where I initiated the contact with them, and it looks a little screwy because I'm reading it from Google Docs.
Because why?
It says so right there.
I can't read it. Sorry, I'm retarded.
Okay, you're good. You're good. I'm sure many people.
I'm a good retard. I'm one of the good ones.
One of the good ones. I'm sure many people can't read this. I'm going to kind of read it a little bit. I just heard from a student, you're not accepting our certificates because we're currently doing a portion online at the moment due to government restrictions and the virus. We are following state law and still requiring students to attend a portion in person. CRS 1812, blah, blah, blah. I explained
you went to the trouble of actually quoting the statute.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then I stated we are not conducting the entire course online. Only a portion of it. Students must still show up in person and participate in class. Attach our pictures from our recent setup. So these were pictures, and the attachments are not showing up. But these are pictures of people sitting in chairs and doing the way we were doing it. And then she replied with, recently brought to the sheriff's attention from another sheriff's office, blah, blah, blah. And the response was it would be appropriate for them, the students, to provide detail of their course, specific as to about how it is conducted, where it is conducted, and specific times of person versus video, times for in-person versus video. I would require they have a statement notarized swearing to the accuracy under the penalty perjury, and we would look at it, understanding that any misrepresentation could be grounds for perjury charge. That
So,
matter,
I had not seen that other sentence, understanding that any misrepresentations could be grounds for a perjury charge on a sworn affidavit that we made up.
correct.
Now, I get it. It's still a sworn statement, but you just made the requirement up.
Correct. So that notarized statement needs to be written by each student and submitted with their certificate. And then my reply to them was, I will tell students about this. My concern now is that this adds requirements beyond those provided in CRS 1812 Part 2, which would be in violation of 1812-201, subsection 3, more specifically where it states an action or rule that encumbers the permit process by placing burdens on the applicant beyond those sworn statements and specified documents detailed in this Part 2, or that creates restrictions beyond those specified in this Part 2 is in conflict with the intent of this Part 2 and it is prohibited. Clarification on where in the CRS it allows individual sheriffs to require additional notarized documents as well as single out companies and or instructors would be appreciated. And then signed it, and then she replies, we're only asking students to verify they attended in-person class because one of your students in the letter can't tell the sheriff that they were only online, and then made an appointment only to pick up their certificate. In that situation, we would not accept the student certificate. If your student doesn't want to put it in writing that they attended in-person class, we will not accept. Thank you. Have a great day. And then I replied with, that's absolutely not true. We are requiring students to participate in person class, and an in-class portion is required by law. And we have plenty of evidence proving that. I have attached yet another picture of students in class and can submit videos and more pictures. I understand your concern. We have been doing this for 10 years, and we are definitely not a company that operates by having students just simply pick up a certificate. There has to be a better solution, and one that wouldn't have any students submit more documents beyond those required Part 2. So in whole, I wanted to, like, sure, let's work with it, but we got to work within the law. You can't require shit that's not outside of the law. So and then this is where she says to Justin Smith, do we want to continue going back and forth with this guy?
Because this guy's being argumentative.
That's what she said.
That's what she said.
Not
in the email. That's what she said today.
That's what she said today. That was being argumentative. Do we want to keep going back and forth with this guy? And Justin Smith says, no, we don't need to be pulled into an argument with them. We are tasked with determining who provides a program that meets the standards.
No, you're not.
We don't need to debate it with them.
Yes, you did.
And that's the thing, and that raises a new issue with Larimer County now. Is just like, one, your people are not versed in the law, which they are enforcing, and the other thing is you're not open to any instructor calling you out on stuff or being or questioning you. Basically, what you want is people to just submit to your authority, and that's it. Because as soon as an instructor says, "Hey, buddy, like that's not what the law says," what you're going to do is say he's being argumentative. No, I'm not. I am willing to provide more evidence to disprove what you're saying. What you don't want to hear is that I do have more evidence to disprove everything that you are saying.
Doesn't sound like a constitutionalist to me. Not at all. Anybody, by the way, I mean, if you were a constitutionalist, it would seem to me that would come along with understanding all the case law around keeping and bearing arms. And you would understand that you really don't have the jurisdiction to be enforcing this law in the first place, and definitely not to be putting extra burdens on a student at all. Now, that's just my opinion. Happens to be right, but that's beside the point. One of the other things that I noticed today, and I'm not going to say this is a true 100% of the time, but this definitely happened during the depositions. there was a lot of blame going back and forth between Mr. Sheriff Smith and his
Subordinate.
his subordinate, both ways, both directions.
Yep.
And that doesn't strike me as leadership quality behavior. I'm not saying that I could do his job. I probably could not do his job, but he ran for that job. He was elected to that job, and he defends his position in that job. When you are the king of the county, which is what the sheriff is, then the responsibility stops with you. You don't get to blame your subordinates for a lack of following policy.
And that's why I say at the beginning, that's why I kind of preface it like I really don't blame her 100%. Like, she does have a duty to understand. I mean, if I'm the person doing that job, I would want to understand everything that comes with that job, right? Because I'm enforcing stuff. I don't want to just show up and be like, oh, this is how I feel it needs to be done. An attitude that I got from Adams County, by the way, and in a few other places, but Adams County recently, because I was there, is this idea like, well, we feel this is, I don't care. I don't want to hear about what you feel.
A constitutionalist would understand that you don't go based on how you feel.
Correct. Because if I got pulled over by one of your deputies and I said, well, I feel 120 miles an hour is actually pretty dope. Like, back the fuck up. Like, it's not going to go over very well if I tell the deputy I feel 179 miles an hour isn't that fast. Like, back the fuck. I could still, the speedometer says more. So, like, I could have been going 250, but move it along, buddy, because I feel this is the way it should go. And so they do have a responsibility. I do think that all of these people doing this job, I'm sure it sucks for them because they got a cajillion fucking applicants coming in. Everybody's pissed off and all that shit. And nobody fucking likes them because they're taking money and all that shit. I get it. You do have a small bit of responsibility, but I just like you said, 100% feel like more than anything else, this is Justin Smith just simply not communicating properly with the entire staff at the CHP as to, because even deciding who the fuck was in charge of that department was kind of a pain in the ass to get them to admit. She's a supervisor, but not the supervisor. She's in charge of the department, but not really in charge of the department. So is it like, which one is it? Like, is it her? Is it not her? Like, does she consult with people? So if I had a job where like you are the supervisor, or we're going to call you the specialist, but you're the head of it, but you're not the head of it. And it's just like, well, do I have a say? Do I not have a fucking say? Like which one is it? So there's a lot of miscommunication there. There's a lot of, it's broken. That shit is fucking broken, man.
Yeah, it was another interesting thing to me about the conversation was a definite lack of clarity on their part about what exactly they objected to, because
it changed over time.
It changed in the deposition, it changed in the statements, and it changed in the emails that were exchanged. And this was our position all along. We don't understand what it is you are telling us that you disagree with. And so they were the only county that pushed the issue. The other counties gave us a chance to talk to them and explain. And in some of those cases, there was a conversation. It wasn't just, hey, we heard you're denying our certificates. This is what the real story is. And they're like, oh, okay, sounds good. Even though a couple of counties did do that, several of them wanted to have a conversation with us and clarify the issues, and gave us the opportunity to do that. In Larimer County, communication was shut down as soon as the statutes were cited. And that was it. That was the end of communications with them. And they can't even speak to exactly what it is that they made that decision to reject the certificates based on. That's not a way to run an administration. It is if you don't care about your citizens, because ultimately it was the citizens of Larimer County who had their certificates rejected that really suffered for this. We suffered for this too, but he's not our sheriff.
Correct.
And so I think that showed a lot, especially in light of the conversation we had with in mediation, and we were trying to make this point that about what the problem was, and the judge that volunteered in the mediation tried to make the point that no online training is acceptable at all, period, 100%. Now, this comes from a very poor reading of the statute, and he basically said, you guys don't have a case here, because if I was the judge in your trial, I would rule against you just based on this one fact. And we were like, no, that's not accurate.
That's why you're retired.
That's why you're retarded. And then he spoke to the other attorney and came back, and the other attorney apparently said, this is according to this judge, that if we did pursue this case further, that's exactly the argument that they would make, that we presented online content. Online content was not acceptable under the statute, and they were going to make that case. Well, they didn't make that case today.
Correct.
And in fact, both Smith and Miss what is her name? McDonough? Angie agreed that some portion of the class can be online according to the statute. So then, it's just shaky ground that they're on, period.
And then the one where I laughed at pretty hard at was when then they switched it over, like, well, no, now we have an issue with you issuing blank certificates. It needs to not be a blank certificate, it has to be your signature and blah blah blah, which we were doing. So because of the pandemic, what I would do is, because my biggest fear at that moment, right, was this
is late April.
Correct.
No, this is mid-April that these certificates were initially being signed. And
so the fear then was, one, we don't really know what the fuck's going on, right? Like, we don't know if we're all gonna die, not die, any of that shit. And then I was consistently seeing old people show up, but like, I definitely don't want to be the source of a bunch of old people dying, right? I'm thinking, one, I don't want to be, because I seen one old lady and I legit asked her, like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like she's old, frail, like barely walk. And I seriously verbally asked her, like, what are you doing here? Like, why are you here? She, I just want to get my permit. I don't care, blah, blah, blah. Like, and here I am, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know.
These are the real heroes of the pandemic, are all the old people who are like, what? There's a pandemic? I'm going to the store.
For real. But
are the movie theaters still open? I want to go see a movie.
This is early pandemic where everybody's like, we're sure this is bullshit. We're sure this is just like the swine flu, but like, we really don't know what the fuck. So in my head, I'm like, I don't want to be the one responsible for killing this old person. Like, I really don't. So I made the decision to, nobody's going to share pens. You use your own fucking pen. I'm not going to write down your name for you, because the less I touch you and the less I'm the granny killer, the better off we are, right? One, ethically, because I definitely couldn't live with the fact that I just killed an old lady. And then PR, right? I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't think about PR. I'd be stupid if I didn't think about that shit. But there's two elements there. So I'm like, you fill out your name with your own pen. That way we don't have to keep doing all of that shit. If you do absolutely want to borrow a pen, here it is. We'll spray it down. We'll do all that weird shit, right? Like, I stopped doing that pretty fucking quick after we started. Like, okay, this is just the government move, right? Like, I'll take care of myself and I'll let people take care of themselves. And now we know what the fuck's going on. So that's why I did that shit. So I would just sign my name and like, here it is. Here's the fucking certificate. Pick it up. So that was their point of contention. Like, well, we don't think that's appropriate. And Brian asked him today, like, where in the statute does it say that? He's like, well, it doesn't. It doesn't even cover what has to be on the certificate. So how can that be your objection now of the certificate? Oh, and that we don't check IDs. Nowhere in the law does it require us to check ID. That's your fucking job. Like, my job is to provide the fucking class. Your job is to verify that the fucking ID matches the fucking name on the certificate. That's your fucking job. That's not my fucking job. that's not what the fucking law says. Now, if the law said that we had to check it, then guess what the fuck we'd be doing? We'd be fucking checking that shit, right?
Mhm.
But that's not what the fuck we're tasked with doing. That's their fucking job. So I'm not gonna do your job for you. Like I'm just not. One of the things that I hated about retail was being a tax man for the fucking state. Hated that shit.
Tax collector.
I was a fucking tax man for the fucking state. Like that's what the fuck I did. That was one of the primary jobs in retail is you're a fucking tax man. Fuck that shit. So that's their 2 point of contentions, and very easily, like, where in the CRS does it say that? And guess what? Justin Smith couldn't cite.
Mm-hmm.
Can't cite that.
So there was a lot of confusion in in March and April and May as people were adjusting, and I don't want to make an excuse. If we made an error, then we made an error. And I think that initially we might not have been coming at this from exactly the right angle, but I think we were pretty close. And on top of that, there's a reason why I decided to keep doing the classes. Like, you didn't come to me and say, hey, I expect you to keep doing classes. And I didn't come to you and say, I expect you to keep doing classes. It was like, what are you, we each asked each other, what are you going to do? Yeah. And because we're making our own decisions. And
by the way, you can ask Brian. My first conversation with Brian before all of this shit hit the fan was like, hey, Brian, I'm about to do some really fucking crazy shit that's going to challenge the state. And he says, that's cute, buddy, but I'm not going to have any fucking leverage to defend you on. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to do this, fucking power to you, but you're on your own, homie, is basically what he said. He says, because I can't, you're giving me nothing to work with. Because what I really wanted to do was say, fuck it, and publicize the amount of people that we're still getting in the classes, and we were going to pack them and fucking 70 students and do all that shit. And that's when Brian's like, listen, this is what the law says. Let's just go at it. Just do that. Right. And I was like, okay, I guess if Brian says he can't defend me and we don't really have any footing, not our broke asses. Right. If we had fucking $3 billion in the account, then he'd be like, fuck yeah, like fucking just keep throwing money at it.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see what happens. Right. But like we're broke. So like, you got to do the budget thing. So that was actually my first conversation with Brian, was like, I want to do some really crazy fucking PR bullshit where it's just like we have 100 motherfuckers, like super spreaders galore.
You know what? Maybe if you'd done that, Denver would have gotten over this whole Rona thing a lot faster.
A lot fucking quicker.
Maybe that 2 weeks would have actually been 2 weeks, to flatten the curve.
Everybody's already had the Rona.
So we adjusted to a workable solution very quickly.
Yeah.
And not only that, but we weren't the only ones that adjusted to a workable solution.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make an excuse saying, oh, the pandemic or whatever, but I mean, this was a pretty major shift and we had to adapt. Oh, I was going to say why I kept doing the classes. The reason I decided to keep doing the classes. And by the
way, it wasn't the pandemic. It was the government more than
it was the government's response to the pandemic. Because if we really were responding to just the pandemic, we probably would have just shut down for a month. Correct. Voluntarily.
Correct.
And then come back and business as usual.
Correct.
And so one of the reasons why I kept doing the classes was as we had tens of thousands of brand new gun owners across the state, and as my county tends to be one of the highest gun owning counties for raw numbers in the state, I had a news story that came up sometime in April. I think it was April, of a young man who shot and killed his wife by accident with his brand new gun
in Springs.
And in the Springs.
Yeah.
20 years old, accidentally shot and killed his young wife. Yeah. And I was like, nah, I'm going to keep doing these classes. Right. We got so many people who are freaked out right now, who think this is the end of the world, and they're going to solve this problem with a gun. I think it's important we keep getting this message out. And yes, I do know that I sound sanctimonious and self-righteous by saying that. And I fully accept it. I fully accept it. But it was important to me, and like it was so important to me that when I would bring it up in class, I had to stop bringing it up in class for a little while because it was making me choke up thinking about it.
Yeah.
And so there was a reason why we kept doing the classes, and several sheriff's offices had the opportunity to shut down and stay shut down or stay open and continue to issue permits with less strict requirements for the application process.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's your prerogative. That's you could do that if you want to.
Correct.
But personally, I thought it was a bad idea to prevent people from getting a permit when a lot of people are going to just start taking matters into their own hands anyway. So there was a lot of confusion at that time. Schools were freaking out. I mean, we had a spring break that lasted, I think, 3 weeks because they didn't know what to do. They're like, yeah, spring break, go home, stay home. Next week comes up.
Do we come back? Not come back?
Next week comes up. You're like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and extend spring break. We don't know what to do yet. And it's like, okay, I guess no more school now, you know? So even though it was, we still have to follow the statutes and the rules. Like there was a tricky time, and on top of that, we were willing to work with a county that we had a problem with. We had a problem with Weld County. We had a problem with their assessment of the situation, and we had a problem with the way that they approached the situation. But we were still able to come to some agreement so that we could keep working together.
And it wasn't really an agreement. It was really more of like, that shit makes sense. Like the way they approached and they said, here's our concerns with this. Because Larimer County not once said, hey, if you do this way, we're afraid that they might be photocopied and all that shit. Like nobody ever said that at Larimer County. Like,
oh yes, the constitutionalists, their first strategy was to open an investigation and send an undercover officer into your class. That was
correct.
Which, by the way, I think it sounds like El Paso County did the same thing.
Correct, except they didn't send a deputy. They sent a deputy. To you, it was just a
clerk.
A clerk, yeah.
Okay,
which is probably the clerk that told you, "Hey, I'm here because I work for the county."
Did she tell me that? Did I already forget that?
Yeah, there was a lady in your class that worked for El Paso County CHP, one of your early classes, which would have been around that same time.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even make that connection.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm retarded. I remember her, but I couldn't remember when that was.
Oh, and by the way, that affidavit El Paso County has, which is against the law.
Yes. I'm aware of it. A student brought it to my attention a couple months ago. I haven't addressed it, but yes, I am aware that El Paso County is doing the same thing.
So
another constitutionalist sheriff, Bill Elder. Yeah.
Breaking the law.
Papers, please. Papers. By the way, before you get your passport or your concealed carry permit, I want to see your vaccine passport too.
Is that what he's saying now?
No, but I'm sure he will.
He will.
It's going to be these sheriff's departments that are going to end up enforcing a bunch of these rules.
And they'll do it happily, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like they will do it.
I was watching the protests going on in France, and these cops are going at it with gusto. These cops are enjoying beating the hell out of people. And they're all armored up too. They look like samurai warriors with all their plastic armor that they're wearing.
They have 2 world wars of retreating that they have to make up for, dude.
Well, let's be fair. They fought very hard in World War I. They didn't fight at all, hardly, in World War II, but they did fight very hard in World War I. I got to give them credit. The French get a bad rap, but yeah, World War II we had to bail them out. But yeah, these cops, the question, like I see, they have no friends. They have no friends at all. I'm watching posts on ARF.com about cops getting ambushed and cops getting fired and cops getting arrested and all this stuff. And a lot of the comments on there are just good. They deserve it. I'm like, whoa, these guys are supposed to be your cheerleaders, man, and they've turned on you.
And I personally, at this moment, because we're not in a revolution, right? We're not there. I'm not prepared to say fuck them all just yet. But this is the type of shit that they're doing and proving why they're just losing the trust from everyone. And as a human, you don't want to be that person who says, yes, let's go kill these people. Let's wish ill on these people. Because I'm with you. I seen Angie today, and it's just like she was uncomfortable like a motherfucker. And part of me was like, man, poor lady. She just wanted to do her fucking job and not doing it. But like at the same time, it's just like, listen, you should just done your job properly, right? Like you should have just communicated, and you should have been an adult about this instead of being like, this guy's being mean to me, so he's questioning us. Should we keep fucking at it with this guy? Like, yeah, you should. Like, let's resolve this shit, right? And that's part of it. Is these people think that they could do whatever the fuck they want, and that was another big eye opener today. Like, they really don't give a fuck whether they're following the law or not. It was really I don't know. Like,
it seems to be more about what can I get away with, like how can I cover my ass, and can I cover my ass and still do what I want to do?
Yeah.
And I don't want to project motivation on people, but just this is my observation. It's just my observation is just, because their position basically became indefensible when confronted with the statute, and they couldn't come up with a defense for it. They couldn't come up with documentation. They couldn't come up with anything that defended their actions, aside from initially looking into it, because they were notified by another sheriff's department that there was a problem, according to them, and they decided to look into it. The extent to which they looked into it was not appropriate.
You can't even really call it looking into it. It was really more like, you're another sheriff's office. Why would you lie?
Which most of the sheriffs that we've dealt with have had the same position initially,
except Summit County.
Except Summit County. Props to Summit County.
Summit County was the only one that's like, let's call these fuckers just.
Or we should say props to the concealed handgun permit specialist in Summit County, because it was her decision to take that information and reach out and call. Maybe she was told to, I don't know, but she was the one who made that initial call. But I think in general, it seems to me, based on my limited life experience, that police officers tend to be a type of person. And that type of person doesn't seem to be getting along with everybody else right now. They're enforcing, and when I say enforcing, ultimately that's violence, laws that are indefensible and are oppressive towards everybody. It's not like you're just oppressing the local crackhead and nobody cares. You're shutting down businesses and issuing citations and enforcing public health orders and things like you're doing that to everybody.
And again, you're enforcing the law based off of your own understanding, not the actual understanding of what the law is. That's where the issue is. Because I think most human beings, I'm not one of them, right? But I think most human beings would not have an issue if you were actually enforcing the laws. I'm not saying they would agree with the law. I'm just saying if you were actually enforcing what you say you're enforcing and it was actually true, like we can actually pull it up in a fucking rule book and it was true, then I think most human beings would be like, you know what, you got me. Like that is what the fucking law is. I have nothing to say. Not everybody, but most humans, right, would be like, I'm with you. I'm the one that fucked up.
I follow a couple of baseball channels on YouTube. People who do commentary. It's really stupid. I don't know why I follow them. What could be more boring than that? But there was a Major League Baseball introduced instant replay in the last couple of years, which I think is stupid, but it exists, and they wrote some rules and some league regulations around how to implement it. And there was a controversy about some guy stepping on home plate. And it wasn't the fact that there was a challenge to the play. The problem is how that challenge was issued. And the guy who helped write those regulations was the head coach of the other team.
Nice.
So he comes up to the umpires and he's like, hey, they can't do that. They can't do that. This is the way the rule reads. They are in violation of the rule for calling this challenge the way that they called it. And the umpire, instead of being an egomaniac, he's like, all right, let's call New York. So in the middle of the game, they called the committee or whoever represents the committee to read the specific rule around this challenge. And it took like 10 minutes for them to get an answer. And the answer finally came back. Nope, they're good. They did it right. And the call stood on the field, and that was it. But I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. Usually an umpire will just freak out on you, kick you out of the game, and say that's the way it is. But he was like, no, we'll go ahead. We'll clarify this. Let's get an answer.
Figure this shit out right now.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that is rare. That kind of behavior seems to be rare.
Correct. And that's what would have saved all of this, right? It would have saved taxpayer money. It would have saved us money. It would have saved everybody a headache. It would have gotten people their concealed handgun permits, like all of this stuff. It would have already been taken care of if that's all they would have done. When I said, hey, that's not true, but I can provide more evidence if you'd like me to. I don't want to go this route because this is in violation of this law, and I don't like that. How about we come up with a better solution that is not in violation of the law, that helps everybody, right? Like if when I said that, they would have been like, hey, like, yeah, let's figure this shit out. But I mean, you guys seen the reply, all one person that's actually watching us now. So
I thought with that teaser on Facebook, we get more people, but
nah, nobody likes us, dude. And the people that do like us don't share us. Why don't you share us?
Come on, share.
Nobody shares us.
Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. But that would have saved a lot of trouble and headache and all that shit. It would have been a lot fucking better if that was the way it was handled. But
Ryan's here. Hi, Ryan. Different Ryan. We had James Ryan, and now we have Ryan, and we have Richard.
That's the same Ryan.
No, it's different. James Ryan and Ryan Looney.
Yeah,
Looney?
it's the same Ryan.
What?
Yeah, it's the same Ryan. No, I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know.
I'm too believing. I'm too trusting. All right. So currently we're waiting on trial. That's pretty much the next step.
You know, there is a possibility that we'll avoid it, but I seriously doubt that we're going to avoid.
He says same Ryan.
It is the same Ryan, right? Yeah.
And Richard. What's up, Richard? Hey, thanks, Richard, for bringing up Reddit once again to pull me into a completely useless argument with one of the mods on there. So trials likely. Trials coming up in what did Brian say? 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we should have our final resolution until at least we sue for damages. I had a great idea today. I really thought it was a great idea. Yeah. We should sue for damages, and whatever money we get from it, we should donate to get people their concealed carry permits for free in Larimer County. Put it into a fund and just pay for people to get their permits in Larimer County
for free. They're full $152.50, and Justin Smith is super duper.
Such a constitutionalist. Since he's got to pay that giant staff to process these applications.
The staff of how many?
1.5.
1.5.
And where was that other half when this person needed help?
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the backup singers? Yeah, so that's where that stands. I wanted to
So
get
for
your
those
take.
of you that listen to shit on Reddit, you should stay off of Reddit first of all. But nope, the lawsuit's still going. This shit's still going on. Don't listen to the stupid shit. Yeah, this
I,
shit's
I-
still.
I wanted to get your opinion on the current state of the country. Where do you think we're headed by the end of the year?
Housing bubble. That
You
looks
think it's
like it.
you think it's going to be a big pop or a little pop?
No, I don't think I don't think they're gonna allow it to be as big as it was last time.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, that's yeah, exactly, Ryan. Reddit's for porn, exactly. Um,
I'd probably still get in arguments over that.
yeah, those are not nice. Those are too perfect. So
Melania Trump is pretty.
oh my Lord Jesus, fucking. If you listen, if you like fucking Caitlyn Jenner, more power to you. She's a beautiful woman.
All right, so housing bubble.
So I think the housing market is already showing a shift. Demand is down by like 6% from last year. It's already showing signs of it turning, which is hilarious because all the realtors on Instagram right now are like, no, don't listen to anyone. This will never end. The housing market is proven it's never gone bad ever in the history of the fucking housing market.
The louder those people get, the closer we are to the pop.
Pretty much.
Yep.
So that's going to suck. And then obviously we have a lot of people that unfortunately are going to be evicted. Some of them by asshole landlords that were probably looking for an excuse to begin with, but a lot of them probably by poor planning. And they thought by me not paying rent, it meant like I really don't have to pay rent. Instead of I should save up some money so that when this shit is 6 months worth of fucking mortgages that are due. So there's that. Other than that, I don't think much is going to change. I see the market correction for many of the products, like lumber is slowly starting to go down, and ammo's starting to slowly go down. Although I don't believe it's ever going to go back to what it was.
Well, if this inflation is anywhere near permanent, we will never see those prices again. They're just physically impossible.
Yeah. So
physically impossible. That's kind of stupid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett says we will all live in trailer parks. Invest now. I hope that's true. I hope he really said that. That guy's such a scumbag. Not because he's rich, but he's just all on board with the kill the poor and take all their stuff. So I am trying not to be a pessimist, and maybe I'm just naturally lean this way. Or maybe the last 12 months of my life has made me lean this way. But I think in certain parts of this country, things are going to get real uncomfortable for people. I think
Denver's going to be one of them.
Probably Denver, definitely California. California's got some major issues. Now, I have a lot of faith in the market in general in addressing needs, but the more the government messes with the market, the less resilient and powerful the market becomes. And so they're talking about the stimulus bill. They're talking about adding more unemployment benefits. They're talking about, did you know in Australia, they're actually already shifting over to a universal basic income? The stimulus payments that the Australians are getting are monthly.
That's tough, man. I mean, it's just economics, man. It's just I wish people would understand that corporatism is or cronyism is what leads to one centralized business, and then that's fucking government. And the last thing anybody needs is centralized and monopolized force.
Well, centralized and monopolized income is probably one of the worst things.
Oh my God,
that you could do to the public, in my opinion, because not because it disincentivizes people, which it does, but that's not, in my opinion, the problem. The real problem is you can just decide who's going to get paid and who's not.
Correct.
And what do you base that decision on?
Correct.
And right now, the the tone seems to be the terrorists, meaning anybody who voted for Donald Trump, and the unvaccinated.
Yeah.
So, and I say that because the New York Times, had an editorial and they printed it that just basically said that anybody who supported Donald Trump should be considered an enemy.
Well, and Don Lemon saying if you don't get a vax, you're
the problem. Oh, Biden
No
said
food.
that too.
no, but he's talking about no food and
No
don't let him
food.
go shop, don't
Mm-hmm.
don't let him do basically anything, right? And that goes against everything. And you can believe that, right? Like you can, like nobody will take that away from you. You can seriously believe that if I personally don't get the vaccination, that maybe I shouldn't be out. But I think that you being retarded should fucking prohibit you from going outside.
Well, most of the vaccine skeptics are not at all saying that nobody should get vaccinated. They're just saying, I don't want it.
Correct.
Whereas the pro-vax people are saying everybody needs to get it. And I was thinking about this all this week or last week. If the goal is to vaccinate everybody in the country, how on earth do you plan on making that happen? Because there are people who are not going to do it no matter what, and they must know that.
And by the way, medically, there's a lot of people that probably shouldn't do it.
Yeah, well, like children. Like,
there's a lot of people that medically should not be doing. There's
people who fly on planes a lot.
Whatever the case may be, like I don't think we consider this enough. Like there was a video that I watched, and it was a chick, and she was disabled. Has nothing to do with the vax, but just an example of the shit that we never really pay attention to. We never listen to these cases. So there's this individual. She has disabilities, and she says one of the things that she hates now is that more and more places that she goes to, they don't have plastic straws because save the dolphins, right? And she's all like, because of my condition, I actually need plastic straws. And many other people who are disabled need plastic straws. So easy solution, right? Fucking have plastic straws, but she will live in an age where like there is no plastic straws.
Mhm.
And then these people who need plastic straws, it's going to be harder and harder for them to live every fucking day. The mask situation, I know just a handful, but enough, right? From the people that I know, there's only a few that because of their lung conditions, they can't. Their doctor specifically said if you wear a mask, you can actually fucking die.
Yeah, well, and also on top of that, since we're putting everybody who has anxiety on a pedestal lately, what about all the people who get anxious wearing a mask, who get medically anxious? I'm not talking about like me. I get anxious wearing a mask, but I could deal with it. I could put up with it. It's a low level anxiety, but I'm talking about people who have like straight up panic attacks when their faces are covered.
Correct.
So, it's brave for Simone Biles to bow out of the Olympics, but, if you don't want to wear a mask, you can get kicked off the flight, landed in a different city, pay for everything, and put on a no-fly list because you couldn't handle wearing the mask.
Your mental health is not that crucial.
Right. It's
again, your mental health doesn't fit our narrative.
Right. It's the idea that rules apply only in certain circumstances to certain people, and other than that, we get to set the tone here.
And by the way, it's all stupid, right? Like both sides of the aisles have retarded arguments to a degree. It's just we have to be objective about that, though. Like we have to be, and not only that, but right now, the Democrats are in charge. The Democrats who are happy, just remember, fucking last year you had the other guy that was in charge. And this is when everybody in the Capitol, Kamala Harris included, was like, I will not get a vaccination that Donald Trump mandates. Like she said that shit. Like fucking Pelosi said, nah, I don't know about the vaccine.
Like not I will not take a mandated vaccine. I won't take a mandated vaccine from this guy. Tell me exactly when Trump was in the lab building this vaccine. Like when was he sitting over the beaker counting, molecules and building this vaccine?
He's not smart enough.
Yeah, I mean, I could see if he was in his garage making a vaccine and he comes out and he's like, "This is it." Everybody's like, "Whoa, I don't think so. I'm not taking that." Now, if Kamala did that, everybody would be out there. Oh, take it, put it in my arm. Yeah, give it to me. Richard says, "I'm neurodivergent. Wearing a mask causes panic attacks, raises my heart rate to dangerous levels." Yeah, nobody cares because you're not.
You're black, you're heterosexual,
male.
You're a male. Fuck you, eat shit.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about you, Richard.
Heterosexual black males are at the bottom of the pyramid. They are at the bottom of the hierarchy.
Liberals are on brunch now.
Dude,
it doesn't matter anymore.
I was listening today.
It's just Blue Mega. It is just Blue Mega. That's exactly all it is. It's just
I was listening to Steve Bannon today. I wasn't listening to his show. I was listening to a clip of him on another show, and he was talking about these neo-corporatist pharmaceutical companies, big business, ruining our lives and everything. I'm like, man, if you rewound this clock 15 years ago, you would only hear this talk from the most hardcore liberal talk show hosts, you know. And here it is, Steve Bannon talking about it as if it was his idea that pharmaceutical companies are dangerous and bad, you know. And it's not like I don't agree with him, but you know, the conversation was much different 15, 20 years ago. I mean, right after 9/11, everybody was basically on the same side. I don't know how well you remember that pretty well. I mean, you were what, 19? No, you were, how old were you? 9/11? 14, 15?
15?
15? Okay, so yeah, you remember. You remember what it was like right after 9/11.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody's on the same team. Let's go get those terrorists. They can't do this to us. And within, I don't know, 3 months, the rhetoric started to change a little bit, started getting partisan. And then by 2004, after we had invaded Iraq, it was like President Bush needs to be charged with war crimes, and these big businesses are ruining the world. And, you know, they're rounding up people and putting them in concentration camps, and they're spying on us, and they're reading our emails and all this stuff. And all the conservatives are like, yeah, well, do you want to die of terrorism?
You don't want to catch the terrorism, do you?
When Team America came out, it was so perfect, you know, like the stupid rhetoric in the movie about terrorists, and everybody could relate to that. And now here we are. We have a bunch of Americans, protesters, who are locked up in jail without their attorneys, without hearings, without formal charges, for doing exactly what the Democrats wanted to do in 2004.
Didn't Maxine just get arrested for protesting at a Capitol?
Maxine Waters?
Yeah, Texas, right? Rep from Texas?
Maxine's not from Texas. She's from California.
Oh, okay, so I got the wrong rep then.
Maybe there's a different Maxine, but it's not Maxine Waters.
Which one is the one that's from Texas? The one Democrat they have.
Well, they've got a bunch of Democrats because they all ran off there's like 50 of them. They all ran off to avoid the vote on the voting suppression laws.
No, this is a U.S. rep.
Oh, I don't know.
Arrested. Let's see. Sheila Jackson.
Sheila Jackson Lee, is that her name?
Yeah, Sheila Jackson arrested for civil disobedience. And this was at the Capitol, right? Wasn't this at the Capitol? Was arrested at the U.S. Capitol on Thursday for engaging in civil disobedience support of a federal.
They were sitting out on the steps or something like that. They were trying to get arrested. Yeah,
insurgents, right?
Yeah,
like, because why would you do that at the Capitol?
Yeah, so the Republicans, the conservatives right now are crying about getting arrested for, you know, using their First Amendment right. You better believe that in 10 years from now, it's going to be the conservatives, or it's going to be the liberals who are crying about getting arrested. And Maxine Waters represents Compton.
Or she used to. Which one was the one that's not in anymore? Boxer's
the one that got robbed in Oakland.
Oh,
did you hear about that?
I did.
I have it on good authority that she's a whore.
And her number is?
I don't know how old you go.
I just go sexy. So if you say she's a whore and she's got a phone number and she could still be reached, is she cute?
No. Maybe back in the day. I don't know. Maybe,
I'm not gonna trust you, Mr. fucking Trump is.
Are you
delicious,
asking
they
if she
said.
looks like a man? The answer is no.
Maxine? Oh no, we said
Barbara Boxer. Mike says if they want everyone vaccinated, they need to make it that the people that have severe side effects can sue the government and drug companies. No, that's not going to happen. It would be nice.
I'm good
but
on Boxer.
You're good.
I'm
You all
good on that
set?
shit. I'm good on that shit.
Yeah. So the rhetoric flip-flops based on need and whoever's running the show. It was the neocons running the show in 2004, and now it's the communists running the show. And I still think that they're neocons. I think they've just changed clothes. So we'll see.
Somebody called Biden Bush Light.
Bush Light. That's classic. I love it.
And I was like I'm trying to remember Bush's presidency because I was a teenager.
It was awesome. It was a great 8 years.
And I mean, I still followed it a little bit because that's when I started to become a little bit more aware of it and all that shit. So, and I'm like, fuck, man. Like the only thing I can't mesh together is how much Biden is just fucking dumb, man. Like how I wish he would speak like Bush, right? Because then at least he'd be saying something. But this whole idea of like just the light.
Well, so everybody knows he's got dementia and some cognitive decline. But if you go watch his old videos where he would grandstand and give speeches, and he was just as much of a moron back then as he is now. It's just he wasn't. He had his thoughts a little bit better collected. But there's a really funny clip of him interviewing Clarence Thomas during Clarence Thomas's confirmation hearings for Supreme Court, and Biden is just an unrepentant moron. Like the guy, he must know on some level that he just has no idea what he's talking about, and he just will not quit. And Clarence Thomas is just sitting there staring at him like, "What are you talking about, dude? Are you looking it up?"
And the funniest thing is, the Mexican president is basically the same fucking thing
as Biden.
Oh my god, incoherent and like what the fuck?
He's gonna get assassinated.
Mexican president?
Yeah, he was talking shit about the vaccine companies, about the pharmaceuticals, and
Oh, that motherfucker is not on board with any of that bullshit.
Yeah, neither was the Haitian president.
That motherfucker. Well, but AMLO did get the jab though. He finally. I'm sure it was just a little bit of cocaine water. He actually got in there.
Who's checking these vaccines, by the way? Who's verifying that these elites are actually getting COVID vaccine and not just getting saline or adrenochrome? Maybe they're just. That would be the ultimate joke. Is that they're sitting there posing for the vaccine when actually just getting children's adrenochrome pumped into their arms. You're like, wow, that feels great.
Amoxicillin. Where's the videos of the fake jabs?
I watched a video of a guy steal a vial of the vaccine. He didn't actually steal it because it was the vial that he was getting for his vaccine. But he was like, is this it? He's on camera. He's filming himself. Is this it? Is this the vaccine? And they're like, yeah, that's it. And he's like, all right, bye. And he grabs it and he runs out. And they chased after him and called the police on him.
Yeah, because there's a few people here, right, that I'd have to find the video where they're trying to do a PR stunt for the vaccine. And then when you zoom in, there was nothing in the fucking in the vaccine. It was just like
just air.
Just air being pumped into their system. It was a retractable fucking thing.
Oh, was it retractable? The
I
needle?
don't know.
Okay. because the needles that they're using are these new needle technologies that are anti-stick needles, meaning you can you're not going to accidentally poke yourself with the needle. And everybody was saying that they weren't real needles, that they were retractable needles, but they're not. They're real needles.
Correct. No, this was like an empty vial. Like there was nothing in the syringe.
That's pretty fun. I don't know if you can do that though. I don't think it's okay to just pump air into people. I think you can kill them doing that.
I gotta find. That's why I want to find the video.
Speaking of air, I had a window well flood on Saturday night at my house, and I sent my wife to the Home Depot to go get a pump, and she finally brought the pump. The rain had finally stopped, but it took me almost as long to get the pump to work as it did to just bail all the water out of the hole with the freaking buckets. Stupid air bubbles in the line. So we're talking
here. Of course.
Now it's not working. Oh, ads. Okay.
For no explainable reason, Nosecola
Empty
injected
syringe.
the syringe when he would have received a COVID shot.
Looks pretty good for 82.
But these are all the PR ones, and there was a politician that that shit's empty.
That is empty.
Like
she didn't even she didn't do
pump it.
nothing.
Nope.
Gosh, well, I can't watch that. I cannot watch. They keep putting this on everything, like pushing the needle into the arm. Who wants to see that?
And there's a lot of PR videos like that, politicians and shit like that, getting basically the same thing, where it's just like, I'm just here for the show. Just fucking hilarious, dude.
Yeah, dude. I would not be surprised if there's like a secret club that when you say you're going to go get your vaccine, they're like, all right, this is what we're doing.
It's all that DIA underground.
Because you're going to tell me that Bill Gates took this vaccine? There's no way Bill Gates took this. No, not at all.
No.
His history of experimenting on people with vaccines, he must know how dangerous experimental vaccines are. He must know. Like, he's not a stupid guy.
Fake news.
Yeah.
Bill Gates would never do that.
So
Never.
Back in 1999 or 2000, would you ever have believed that there would actually be a rocket like the one in Austin Powers being launched into a space by a bald billionaire?
I'm not even for me personally, somebody who thoroughly loves the universe and space and cosmology and all that shit. I noticed the dick. I noticed the bald guy in the dick going into space, but for me it was more like, holy shit, like I now have the ability to go to fucking space.
That makes sense to me. That makes sense.
Like that's all I was thinking about. Like I get it. Like that's a penis. Like yeah. But like my inner child could not trump my inner desire to fucking go to space. And it's like that's a fucking doable thing now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean I'm only limited by finances at this moment. But that shit was incredible. I liked Branson's more Virgin Galactic.
But he didn't go to space, so that's nothing to aspire to.
He didn't break, but he will at some point. He'll make it to what we consider space. Because if you really think about it, Bezos didn't go to space either.
No, I thought he broke the barrier. I thought like 62 miles was like the actual space barrier.
If you want to get technical, the International Space Station isn't in space. That's just what they agree on, and but it's just to say you're an astronaut. That's not really.
So where is the actual line though?
Depends on the physicist that you ask, but like beyond our protection of the Earth is slightly beyond the moon. So there's
so you're talking like past our magnetic and immediate gravitational. Well, yeah. Well, nobody's going that far.
Correct. So I mean, technically speaking, nobody's been beyond Earth's because then that would be space. That would be beyond Earth's Because if you really think about where the International Space Station is in relation to the Earth, it's barely fucking out there. Like it's barely up there.
Yeah, it's barely high enough to even see what the curvature of the Earth.
It could see that pretty all right. It just can't see, like you can't see the whole marble, right? Like it's not like you can from the moon.
Yeah, but I mean, I think at some point, I think maybe my definition as a very smart person and an authority on this subject would be at what point are you in an actual orbit?
Oh, well, it depends on what kind of orbit you're talking about, because there's all kinds of orbits that you can be in.
Yeah. Well, the space station stays up there by itself, right?
No, the space station has to be corrected every so often, because the space station there really is no orbit. You're always literally falling towards something, an object, right? So the moon is actually technically slowly falling towards Earth. At one point they'll collide. The astronauts up in the International Space Station are literally falling towards Earth, and it has to be corrected every so often so it doesn't fall into Earth. So they're falling.
But at some point, the speed that you're going would be overcoming your falling, right? Like you're still in the orbit, but you're moving so fast.
Well, you'd have to be higher though. That's the thing.
Yeah, I really think that neither one of us is really qualified at all to have this conversation. You're probably more qualified than I have. You probably looked at it more than I have. Nick says that 50 miles above the ground per NASA is the Earth space boundary.
I don't think it was. Is it 50 miles?
50 miles, I thought, was still in the troposphere. And then Mike said Fauci didn't get the vaccine. They interviewed him right after, and he grabbed the wrong arm. Yeah, Fauci'd probably be another person that would never get the vaccine. That freaking lunatic knows all about mRNA therapies.
So most widely accepted boundary of space is known as the Kármán line, 100 kilometers. Yeah, so about 50. But the United States uses 80 kilometers as a cutoff. So ours is shorter.
Underachievers.
But they just changed that the same day that Bezos went up. So the Kármán line is at 62 miles. Yeah, because Bezos thought that he was going to be given the astronaut badge by Congress. And then Congress that exact same day changed with the definition of an astronaut.
Oh, they did him dirty. Are you serious?
Yep.
So Elon is sending his up like 300 miles or something, but he's not going to go ride on it.
No, that'd be crazy, dude.
Yeah, so there'll be no asterisk next to the Elon space machine, but Elon's not going to be sitting on top of that big penis.
So let's see, how high to stay in orbit? You can't. That's the thing, because the gravitational pull is always pulling.
No. The moon stays in the orbit. There must be some line.
No, the moon is slowly moving towards Earth. At some point, it's going to collide with the Earth.
Okay, well, let's talk practically speaking here then.
But you can't, because it's science. To do this, it must be a free trajectory which has an altitude or prestige altitude closest around 80 kilometers, 50 miles is the boundary of the space defined. Well, that's not what I'm asking. What is the lowest stable Earth? There really isn't.
Ryan says that's what happens when you don't pay taxes. Bezos, you blew it, dude. You didn't pay the right people. You gave Van Jones $100 million. You should have given Pelosi $100 million.
So here we go.
254 miles. Okay.
Here we go. Getting a satellite into orbit is hard enough. They need to be hurled into space at 26,000 kilometers, but staying in orbit means avoiding losing energy to the Earth's atmospheric drag. While the official threshold of space is 100 kilometers above Earth, the effects of the atmosphere can be detected much higher. Even Hubble, which orbits almost at 600 kilometers, could be brought down by the creeping effect of drag. So
it's drag. It's not gravity.
Yeah, but eventually it's both, really, if you really think about it. But sure, drag. Only satellites in orbit several tens of thousands of kilometers above the Earth can be regarded as effectively permanent.
So, but by your definition, if you're not far enough away to be outside the orbit, you're not in space. Like, is Jupiter not in space compared to the sun?
Well,
the sun
again,
not-
that's why it varies, right? That's the problem with relativity. Um, that's the problem with the universe, and that's the problem with low level understanding of physics, because even time is relative to what? Speed is relative to what? Like speed relative to the Earth's rotation, or is it speed relative to the Earth or to the moon? Because that's why it's so difficult to travel into space, because like if you say like it's I'm going to be traveling this fast, yeah, but this fast in relation to what? So we have a standard unit that everybody understands, but that's just what people get told because it's too complicated to understand the entirety of the universe, because it's all relative. Like it's
So, but you're saying you're not really in space until you're out of the Earth's
depending on the physicist that you ask.
orbit?
Like I have no opinion on it, but I know many physicists, my cousin being one of them, that would argue with you if you told them that the International Space Station was in space, because it's technically not outside of the Earth's atmosphere. You'd have to be further beyond the
atmosphere.
moon.
Atmosphere I can understand, but the moon is well beyond the Earth's atmosphere.
Depends on what you're measuring, though, because there's evidence that we still have part of the Earth's atmosphere beyond even the moon. So it's
Are we talking like the electromagnetic field being the atmosphere?
No, just the atmosphere.
Is there air on the moon? Is that what you're saying? Can I breathe out there?
But you can't breathe in space, but there's still atmosphere there. You can't breathe in Venus, but there's still atmosphere there.
What kind of atmosphere are we talking about here?
Low level atmosphere. I mean, you have how far does Earth's atmosphere reach? This is the question, right? You done got me started on crazy shit. So space.com.
Space.com. Okay. Sounds like fake news to me, but
fake news to me. Space, Earth's atmosphere extends beyond the moon.
Oh, look at that. That's way past the moon. Is that little white dot the moon?
Yeah, that's the moon right there.
Dang, that goes way beyond the moon.
So, like, that's why I said there's a lot of astrophysicists and cosmologists that will argue with you.
Okay, so I want to say something here.
Yeah.
In the last podcast, you said something about being able to go, you could hold your own against some low-level MMA fighters.
Like the ones that are just starting.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to challenge him on that. And then I didn't. And this is why. This is why I don't do that. Because here you are showing me the Earth's atmosphere. The moon is what, 280,000 miles away from the Earth? 250,000 miles away from the Earth, roughly.
Okay.
So this picture you're showing me is like 1 million miles away. We still are seeing signs of the Earth's atmosphere.
Correct.
I would have never, ever in my wildest dreams imagined that to be true.
Oh yeah, the fucking universe is wild. That's why when people talk about space travel and how easy it is, and like it's so complicated, because the reality is the time alone, because time is relevant relative to where you're leaving from and what you're aiming at and shit like that, because time here on Earth is different than on Venus and all that shit. So it's super duper complicated. But again, we use metrics that elementary school taught us, so everybody's like, no, that's not that, no. And it's hard to argue with people who believe the public school system taught you properly.
Well, I was not educated in the public school system. I was educated by my lovely and talented and devoted mother, and she never taught me any of this.
But did you need to learn it?
No. Well, apparently I did, because it came up in an argument that I lost. Thanks a lot, Mom. Yeah, somebody I was chatting with the other day mentioned like how stupid algebra was and how useless those equations were, and I was like, yeah, well, learning how to solve for x is actually a very useful skill.
Very.
And understanding all the different ways to solve for x is useful. And maybe you're not going to take it all the way to the quadratic equation every time, but getting a firm grasp of that, helps you do your taxes, helps you calculate what your income actually is, and expenses and all that stuff. So Nick says there's 9 planets. I'm with you, dude. Pluto is a planet.
So there is a 9th planet, but it's not fucking Pluto. It's
planet X.
No planet.
I guess it would be planet VI or XI.
No, it's just planet 9. Right now, they're just calling it planet 9. There's too much disturbance in Uranus to not be a planet 9.
I'm with Tisha. This is all a stage. The sky actually only goes up 75 miles up to the dome.
So that's so hilarious because when I first met Tisha and we started talking about this shit, I'm sure it wasn't one of the very first conversations we had.
I'm sure it was.
And that's one of the things she's like, no, like this is like that one of her teachers in school, and I believe it was high school, if I'm not mistaken. She can correct me right now. Actually taught them and was dead serious that everything above us is put on by the government. It's all just curtains.
Is this a Pueblo high school?
No, this is here in the Denver area. I think
Denver area.
It would have been Westy if it was high school, but can you
That is
imagine?
so awesome.
Can you imagine believing that like the government sets up curtains up and fucking?
I can imagine believing that. I can't imagine writing a test and teaching that to kids.
9th grade, Westminster High School.
No, I'm sorry. That's the wrong answer. You get an F.
You get a fucking F. What cloth material did they use to fucking sliver over the dome?
Well, I remember when I was a kid thinking that the whole world was just an elaborate play, and I was the only one who was not in on it, like just some straight up Truman Show type stuff. This is well before Truman Show happened. And then I heard the Shakespeare quote that all the world is a stage, and I was like, I knew it. I was onto something.
I knew it.
But I think I've actually started to understand that concept a little bit better recently, because I encountered this. She believed in aliens and had the worst coffee breath. Did the aliens have the worst coffee breath?
So here's the fucking kicker for me. Is just like, you believe this is all fake, but you believe in aliens. Like, where the fuck did the aliens come from, you fucking idiot, if this is all made up?
It's just an elaborate simulation, which is really not that hard to believe the more advanced we get. But I came across a list of words that somebody had made up to describe situations and feelings that didn't have words for them, and one of those words, I don't remember what the word was, but it described the feeling you get when you're in a crowded situation. You look around and you realize that everybody in that room has had an entire life full of all kinds of situation or experiences and situations just like you, but nothing like you. And they're all living in their own reality, and they all experience life just like you do, except completely unique to them. And I was like, yeah, that's why you feel like you're on a stage, because you can't ever truly relate to somebody.
Correct.
You always feel somewhat alone in the fact that you're the only one who's experienced your life. And it feels very special to you, but not to anybody else.
Correct.
So, that's some George Norrie shirt. George Norrie, somebody out there saying the moon is not natural. It was put there. Yes, it was put there by the Mormons. You didn't know that? The Mormons put it there.
Oh, my Lord. So
the Lunarians.
And this is what, like, when I start listening to shit like that, right? Like, whoever the fuck that retard George Norrie is,
you take that back.
Whatever.
You don't know Coast to Coast AM, the radio show,
and or the flat earthers and shit like that. And then you think about it, and you're like, oh, you're just retarded. Like that's all it is. Like, you just don't bother to understand the complexities of how it all works and how your retardedness could never work in a real world because it's fucking complex, dude. Like it's super duper fucking complex.
This is why I don't trust anybody who thinks that they know how to fix things
Yeah.
in the world.
Oh, it's super complex, dude.
Like if you had any understanding of how complex this world was, you would never volunteer to try to fix its problems. Because it's a no-win situation. There is no way you're going to come up with a solution that's going to fix things. You're probably just going to make things worse.
Correct. Yeah.
So
yes.
This lends itself to the anarchist argument for sure, which is like, no, let's just all do everything in our own best interest. And when we have a problem, we'll deal with it as a small group. But other than that, leave us alone. Let me do my own thing.
Correct.
Yeah. The problem with that. Oh, go ahead.
Because it is. And the more you think about it, the more it's just like this is retired. I was listening to Elon Musk, and
another fellow retard,
another fucking fellow retard. And although I do heavily believe that he is batshit crazy to the point where and we've had this discussion, right, where he's batshit crazy to the point where he's a fucking genius. There's a lot of shit that he just fails to grasp, right? It's probably the autism. Where he just fails to grasp it, and everybody's on a mission of like, oh, we need to colonize a different planet, and not understanding that in a short million years, we think it's a long time, but I mean it really isn't. In a very short amount of time, either we're going to collide with another galaxy, which is already happening, like the beginnings of us colliding with the Andromeda galaxy is already there. We're fucked. Or our sun is going to slowly become a red dwarf, and it's going to expand and absorb us, and we're fucked. So you colonize Mars, and guess what? We're still fucked. Like you're not going to change that shit. You are still fucked, and your legacy and all your memories and all that shit are all fucking gone. So yeah, this idea of us trying to fix anything is better off just let the fucking universe or Jesus or fucking baby Buddha or your 8-legged lady fucking do what the fuck it's gonna do, and all we can do is just kind of hang back and watch the fucker burn.
But we don't have the instinct to do that. We don't have the instinct to hang back. And so I mean, if the universe is natural and the universe has its own order, then there must be some reason, some natural reason, some evolutionary reason why we have decided to try to tackle problems. Animals are not problem solvers in the way that we are, although the more conscious the animal, the more problem solver that they become. Good to see you, Tad. You're a bit late. Punch in. You're getting your pay docked. So
and explain you're incorrect.
There must be a reason, but I genuinely think that we should be directing that instinct to solve problems inward first.
Yeah.
Solving our own problems as individuals first. Now, you got to make a living, and you may have an instinct to help and to create and to innovate. But we should be very wary of inflicting that instinct on great numbers of people. If I live in a small village and I decide, hey, it'd be better than carrying water 50 miles. What if we dug a hole and we found the water underground? Like that would be a useful thing for the village. But if I want to create the water and sanitation department and restrict how much people can use water and sell the rest of our surplus water to a neighboring state, I'm taking on a level of complexity that I don't understand.
Correct.
I use that example because California seems to want more of our water lately.
Well, it goes back to the disabled lady that needs a straw, right? Like everybody is so worried about saving the dolphins that they forget about the human being that needs the straw. Because it's too complex to. Have you watched that show? It's not particularly a good show. It's not all that great, but it's
all the shows I watch.
Probably. But it's good enough to fucking just keep you coming forward for a little bit more. And I think it's called The Good Place. Ted, not Danza, the other Cheers guy.
Ted Danson.
Danza.
You're thinking of Tony Danza and Ted
Tony
Danson.
Danza, yeah, Ted, yeah. So the Cheers guy, and then fine ass, sexy ass motherfucking, I don't know her name, but that ugly fucking piece of shit, Dax Shepard, is fucking it. Um, his wife is in it.
So they go to heaven, right? This show's about heaven or something like that.
No, they're bad people that end up being tricked into being in heaven, and it's all a ruse, and they find out about it and shit like that. And then at the end, the conclusion is nobody's gone to heaven in millions of years, because the algorithms don't allow for its complexity. And one of the arguments was like, right now you can fucking have the godliest of fucking chicken sandwiches, but they hate gay people, so that'll knock you a point. But and that's kind of one of the jokes, is like you can think all you're doing is eating a sandwich, but because they hate gay people, like that promotes hatred or whatever the fuck it is. Or
right. So you're yeah, just perfecting yourself, which perfecting yourself is impossible. You cannot perfect yourself.
Correct.
You live in an imperfect system. You're an imperfect being. And I'm not even going to use the word fallen. I'm not going to use the religious
Correct.
context. You just cannot know everything. And it is impossible for you to not make a mistake. So it's hard enough to perfect yourself. So if you are hungry and you want to eat a chicken sandwich from a restaurant, your primary concern should be
the holiest
of chicken sandwich restaurants. Your primary concern should first be, can I afford this, and is this good for me?
Yeah.
And if both answers, if both answers are yes, then at least you've solved that problem.
Correct.
And then beyond that, like I've been trying not to shop on Amazon. It just bothers me that I'm supporting an organization that I don't necessarily want to support. And that's for a lot of reasons. None of them are all that spectacular. It's just something that's going on.
Correct.
That's fine. Like, that's fine. But I'm not going to hold a gun to my own head that says, if you ever even click on an Amazon link again, you got to pull the trigger.
Bitch.
It's like you got to do your best to follow your own principles and ethics, and that's hard enough. Correct. Inflicting that on other people is beyond difficult.
In context. So I was listening to a conversation, and they were talking about it was about race, and the question
Tisha just said you're basic.
The idea was, are white people inherently racist? And
wait, what were you watching?
It was a conversation about race.
Was this on a YouTube channel? Or?
Yeah, I forget where it was at, to be honest with you. Like,
okay,
it was not that important, but what intrigued me was what the point that we're trying to make, and his response was like, yes, white people are all inherently racist. In the same manner that we're all inherently thieves, we're all inherently murderers, we're all inherently all kinds of bad shit, right? The white people that exist today can't say 100% I'm not a racist, because you haven't been put in a position where the racism could potentially come out. Like, you don't live in fucking the early 1800s or the 1700s where your life and your livelihood kind of depended on you being a fucking racist. So it hasn't really been put to the test. Much like the person who lives in the hood that needs to sell drugs and shit like that, because they feel the pressure of whatever their environment, whatever they think is pushing them towards selling drugs and shit like that. Had they not lived in that position, they probably would not be selling drugs, but they are in that position. So we're all inherently some fucked up shit. So it's kind of that, like, you're dealing with those.
We all possess the capacity for evil and darkness, context. and we're lucky if we never get put in a position where that could get drawn out of us.
Correct.
So this is kind of silly.
That shit too.
This is kind of silly, but I think it makes the point quite well, especially if you're familiar with the story. But Harry Potter starts out as a pretty innocent kid with no parents. So he's kind of like that blank slate, the tabula rasa that they talk about when they talk about nature versus nurture. Harry Potter starts out as a blank slate. He doesn't know his history. He doesn't know anything about the world that he's a part of. He just gets picked out at like 11 years old and says, hey, you're going to wizard school. Guess what? You're a wizard. Your parents were wizards too. They were murdered by a wizard, and now you're going to be immersed in this wizard world. And he's like, he has no context whatsoever. So allegorically speaking, he is that blank slate. And because the story's about him, you know, the idea that he's chosen, that he's the one, he is the Jedi that's going to save the world, to mix my metaphors. He's presented with a bunch of challenges that his friends and his closest the closest people to him are not presented with. They get near it, you know, but they're never actually him. They don't have Voldemort in their head trying to convince you to go to the dark side.
All of these references, by the way, are going over my head.
You don't know anything about Harry Potter?
Nothing. I know he's a fucking nerdy British dude.
God, this is it. It's such a good story. It sounds like it's the Bible. It is the Bible. I mean, all these stories come from the same place, and the Bible came from other places too.
Right. Yeah.
It's such a well-constructed story, and on screen it's portrayed really quite well. But Potter is like, am I the devil? Better. The movie's always better. Potter's like, am I the devil? You know, in the fifth book, he's like, I think I might actually be the devil. Yeah. And Dumbledore, who's like he's the head wizard, he's kind of God in this story. And he's like, no, you're not the devil. We all have the devil inside of us. It's not what you feel, it's not what you think, it's how you act that matters. It's which side you choose. But he's the only one in the story that's directly presented with these opportunities to act these things out. You know, because it's a story, right? So we're focused on the hero of the story. We're not focused on everybody else. And so he has this evil within him that he has to fight against. We all have that in us. We all have that urge to be vengeful. We all have that urge to be untruthful and to hide, to conceal, to be to thieve, to be racist, and all this stuff. Racism, by the way, in my opinion, is just a defense mechanism that was evolved over millions of years against something that doesn't look like you. I mean, we have a hard enough time getting along with people within our own tribe. We are looking for reasons to not get along with other people.
Yeah, it's insecurities.
It's insecurities. It's unknowns. It's a primeval urge to protect the group. And since we have very little to go on besides things like gender and skin color and whatever, we're going to pick our own group in a lot of cases. I think a lot of racism is taught, but I think innately people are just like, yeah, you don't look like me. I'm not going to treat you right unless I've learned how to treat you right, unless I have a incentive and a directive to treat you right. Most people are going to operate on a base level.
But that dog, that absolutely looks nothing like me. I'm gonna fucking bring it inside and house it and take it to the vet.
Put it in my bed. Put it in my children's bed. Yeah. So I don't have
nothing like me.
Tad asks, do you think we're all racist? I really don't have a problem with people saying that white people are racist. I have a problem with people saying that only white people are racist. I think that's dishonest. I think we all have the capacity to do that to each other. Now, historically, in relevant history to ourselves, most of the time it's been white people in charge, but that hasn't always been true. It hasn't always been white people in charge. And we all have the capacity to exploit and hurt each other for very stupid reasons. Stupid now, like you're talking about relativity, relative to where we are now, they're stupid. Maybe 30,000 years ago, when your tribe was hiking through the mountains of France and your survival depended on fighting another group of people who look different than you over hunting lands or caves or something like that. Yeah, I think it makes a little bit more sense.
Which I never understood. This is bonkers, right? Like, Because I go back in history and you read a lot of these land conflicts and like they collided and all that shit. And then you take a trip and then you drive from Denver to fucking Missouri and there's so much empty fucking space. Like it's just like, when the fuck did these motherfuckers bump into each other? Like I'm driving from fucking Denver to Kansas and I haven't
Well,
seen any fucking
yeah, but
relevant thing.
they're going to congregate where the resources are. If there's a river, if there's fishing grounds, if there's hunting grounds, if there's a
Yeah.
safe place, there aren't a whole lot of habitable places on this planet if you have zero technology. If all,
Yeah.
I mean, if your technology extends to like your clothes and your hunting weapons, the amount of livable space goes way, way down.
Yeah.
The only reason why anybody lives in Hastings, Kansas is because there's water there and we have the technology to drive there. Other than that, nobody would live there. You know, it would.
I think
it
it's
would,
quite opposite because I think everybody has the technology to have left that fucking place.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
So now everybody's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Fuck
Well, it's
this place.
interesting. It's interesting that there's definitely a urban flight going on right now. There is a huge exodus of people leaving major urban areas for less populated areas, mainly driven by price. That's the primary motivation seems to be right now. If I'm not tethered to a certain place for work, I can live anywhere and still do my job. Well, I'm gonna live where housing is cheaper and there's more space.
Oh man, and the people who say that shit too, they're like, we're running out of room, we're overpopulating. Like, oh my, go to Kansas, like go to fucking Kansas. In fact, just east of Aurora, like fucking East Aurora, all the way to fucking the Missouri line, and I promise you, there's
The
plenty
same
of fucking
people-
space there.
The same people who say that we're running out of space and that the world needs less people are the same people who are technological nut huggers who believe in technology being the savior of the planet. Well, technology is how people live in less and less habitable places.
Yeah.
And you can't have it both ways. Like, I was listening to a lecture on Herbert Marcuse, who was the French communist in the 1960s. And part of the redemption of man and the perfect state, the perfect communist state, was going to come about because of technology. We were all going to live in urban centers. All of our needs were going to be magically met by technology. Nobody would have to work if they don't want to work, and every problem would be solved by technology. And Marcuse is a darling of the elites. And I think that they really do believe this. There should be less people. We should have more technology producing our foods. We don't need to rely on things like cattle. We can make food in a lab. We can make beef in a lab. And we can kill off a great number of the workers of the world. And we can live in this technological utopia that involves me being rich and everyone else just leaving me alone.
That's crazy, dude.
So I think that's coming. I don't think it's going to be as smooth as they
just described a liberal elitist.
Yeah, exactly. Driving their
Right.
perfect little Prius or even better, their Tesla, you know.
'Cause all they care about is how does your polluting affect me?
Right. And Teslas are a kind of an engineering masterpiece, or maybe not masterpiece, but they're definitely great inventions. Now they have their issues, but they're still relatively early models. They pollute less. I know people are like, well, you got to get the electricity from somewhere. They're far more energy efficient in how they use that that energy.
It's
So-
the mining of the lithium that's a fucker.
It's true. Mining the lithium is bad, but is it as bad as mining oil and coal? I don't know, but that's a fair question, right?
Correct.
And conceivably, you can power these things with renewable energy, although that kind of remains to be seen. But there are technological advancement, and people driving these things are so aware of the fact that they're driving these modern marvels. And just to give you an example, I watch a lot of car crash videos on YouTube, you know, the dash cam videos. And I swear to God, every time there's a video from a person driving a Tesla, they have to mention the fact that they're driving a Tesla.
Have to.
Like, this camera angle is from my Model 3 and captured this guy being a jackass on, you know, it's just like, what? Yeah, fine. You drive. Nobody else does that. Nobody
dash
else
cam.
in the dash cams mentions what they're driving.
Dash
Um, and it's the same. We know this from Prius drivers forever. You know, it's a stereotype because it's
My
true.
Prius.
So, did you end up buying? You have not bought a Tesla. You thought about buying a Tesla.
Yeah, I thought about buying a Tesla, but then the more and more I thought about it, the less of a technological marvel it becomes.
Well, it definitely has its problems, like not
Oh.
being able to get out of the car when it's sinking in water.
And that sucks, right? Because I plan on sinking in water.
Well, there was a guy whose his Tesla caught on fire, and it pulled over for him and told him to get out of the car, and then he couldn't get the door open.
Get the fucking door out.
He had to break the window.
So no, outside of that is the more and more I thought about it, I will eventually get an electric car. They've always intrigued me, but especially the older shit, like the early 1900s electric cars.
Yeah, but do they have all-wheel drive?
I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
I'm more interested in the Mustang Mach-E because every review says that.
What about the Audi? Isn't the Audi supposed to be faster than the Mustang?
Oh, I don't know. I've only compared it to the Teslas, and everything says that the Ford is a better made electric vehicle. But still, it's not practical because the 300 range is really only like 250 because it depends on temperature, it depends on how fast are you really going, hills, altitude. So it really only becomes 250. And then when you want to charge it, sure, you can go to a fucking fast charge, but that fast charge is going to be like 10, 15 minutes for you to get a full fucking charge and get home and shit like that. Or you could do the trickle for 24 hours. Like I can hit a gas station, 5 minutes, get the fuck out and fucking leave and have 400 miles of range. And it's going to be 400 miles of range basically every single fucking time. Very few variables to that. Speed and altitude and shit. But it's all been regulated to fucking death where it's almost fucking precise to the mile. So the technology, although amazing and cool for the city, it just long term, I think it's going to be like the early 1900s electric vehicles, where it's just like it's super fucking dope, but it's still not because that's the big complaint that I get from everybody because I'm doing the Turo thing. I'm renting vehicles out, and anybody who's rented a Turo is just like, it sounds cool until I wanted to take one car on a 3-state trip, and it was a pain in the fucking ass. Like it wasn't even enjoyable anymore at that point.
So several years ago, this was like maybe 7, 8 years ago, I went on a family trip to Myrtle Beach, and we were doing some Christmas celebrating, drinking, having fun.
Yeah.
And there's a Tesla parked in this parking garage, and a family member of mine, who shall remain nameless, but I'll just say he's twice as old as me. We were coming out of the parking garage, and he was happy drunk, and there's a Tesla sitting there plugged into the wall, and he just walks up and unplugs it and laughs his ass off. And yeah, it's kind of a dick move, and you're drinking and you're doing
but it's
things.
supposed to lock now.
Yeah, you're doing things you shouldn't be doing, but the idea that you're sitting there thinking tomorrow my Tesla will be ready for me to drive, and some drunk a-hole just comes along and unplugs it for you, and now you don't have a car for the next day.
I thought that locked though.
No, plugged into the wall. He unplugged the wall port of the.
Not the car side of it.
No,
the fucking wall side of it. Take that, Tesla.
Yeah, and I mean, well, if it's in my garage, well, whatever, dude. If you got to plug your car in and leave it, and then what is it? The Chevy Bolt? They're telling people not to leave them plugged in the garage because it could catch fire and burn your house down.
Fire, yeah.
The
one I was looking at for Turo was the Nissan Leaf.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard decent things about those, where it's not crazy range, relatively inexpensive. I think you can get one used for like $10,000.
They're so ugly, though. I mean, not that it matters to you, but
it's disgusting. But
doesn't Fiat make a electric car?
Yeah, I don't know. Everybody makes an electric car now. But if I got one for me personally, at this point, probably be the Mustang Mach-E.
Mhm. Is
just
it
'cause I'm-
programmed to not run over people? Is that the?
It is programmed to specifically run over people.
I saw a woman run over somebody in her Mustang because he gave her AIDS, and she ran him down. And I thought this is the first time ever that a Mustang was used to intentionally hit somebody.
Oh man.
So I have to talk about another modern marvel, which is my 20-year-old Subaru.
Okay.
So you know what it's like to drive out to the Guns for Everyone training ranch, powered by USCCA,
Yes.
and it's an 11, almost 12-mile trip on dirt roads they're well maintained dirt roads, but they're still dirt roads. And if you've ever driven on these roads in a hurry, you know there's the potential that you could end up off the road quickly, especially in a couple specific areas. This Subaru is unbelievable on these roads.
Yeah.
With that mechanical all-wheel drive. Oh my gosh, dude. I couldn't crash this thing if I wanted to.
Well, you
It
could,
is,
but
well, yeah,
but
I mean,
I get the
yeah.
I get yeah.
You can just feel this car being like, oh, you need some power over here. All right, let's give you some power over here. Oh, you want
Yeah.
some power over here? Oh, okay. You want power on all four wheels? Got it.
Yeah.
It just, and because it's mechanical, it just seems so smooth. In my wife's car, she has a Sequoia, and it has traction control, but it takes a second for the traction control to kick in. And when the traction control turns on, it cuts power to the wheels.
Correct.
So like you can't, pushing on the gas doesn't do anything anymore. It's
Doesn't
just
distribute power, it cuts power.
it cuts power, but it does it in a way to straighten you out. But it
Correct.
only, like, you can't just power through a corner. It will slow down in the corner and not speed up, you know.
Yeah.
And this car is 20 years old. There's nothing special about this car, but oh my god, dude, this car is so much fun to drive out here.
Which is weird because my Subaru is my least favorite vehicle.
Which Subaru do you have?
It doesn't matter. It's a fucking Subaru. They're all
They-
the fucking same.
They're all the same.
I have the they turned it into the Accent or the Ascent, but it used to be the Tribeca.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got the same technology and all that shit. But it is my least favorite fucking car.
Is it mechanical or is it electric though? Like as far as the 4-wheel drive, is it traction control?
No, it's not your traditional traction control. This one's a 2011.
Okay.
So I think it's got the same shit that yours is because yours is in early 2000s.
Yeah, 2001.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nate says that gravel turns to marbles when you're coming in hot. Oh, sister,
Yes.
you are telling the truth, man.
Yeah, the Ascent is like a Fat Four. Well, yeah, it's the 3-seater or the third row and all that shit. So it is a bigger Subaru. Least favorite one though. I think the Outback's better.
Yeah, so this is just the little Outback, but I don't know. Like I've driven other cars out here. My favorite car before this was just the front-wheel drive Honda Civic, like a early 2000. Well, the one that you got now.
No, the one that my oldest got, and all the stories I could tell you about that poor little car.
Oh no, that's so
Yeah.
sad. But that
It is
car
super-
was just straight up 2-wheel drive, nothing fancy, no traction control. When you're dealing with something like that, you know, like you can feel what's going on with the car a lot better. And so far my speed record out here on the road has been set in that little Honda as far as getting from gate to gate. So allegedly. Yeah.
Oh, it's private road. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's private road. Fast
So,
as fuck. Boy.
it's,
the one I
it-
want to take out there and kind of test out is the Pathfinder.
Mm-hmm.
That one seems like it's going to be delicious on those roads.
So it's 11.9 miles of dirt roads, and I got gate to gate in the Subaru in 13 minutes flat.
Nice.
So that's pretty good. That's averaging like 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's a lot of corners.
That's not bad at all. Yeah, I want to try the one that I think would do the worst outside of the Subaru is the fucking believe it or not, I think the VW, the Tiguan would fucking be atrocious.
Yeah.
It's just
Well,
too fancy. It's too
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. I have that Audi now, and I'm not taking it out here on the ranch, but I'd be interested to see. I'll tell you though, I was out with my brother the other night in his Audi, and we took a corner so fast it didn't scare me. I didn't even have time to be scared. I got dizzy going through this corner because we hit it so hard. We hit it so fast. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure, but I think we were going about 60 miles an hour in a like a hard 90-degree left turn.
Your Pathfinder sucks, fucker.
So, and all he did was keep his foot on the gas through the corner, and we hit some gravel, and obviously the wheels.
This is on the ranch?
No, this was in Pueblo West.
Oh, okay.
And you definitely could feel the car wanting to let go, but it just didn't. It just like, nah, we're good. We're gonna keep going.
That's cool.
And
I'm telling you, Porsche technology is fucking incredible, dude.
yeah, is it Porsche?
Yeah.
You think that's Porsche? That's not Audi. That's not the Quattro system.
Well, who created the all that shit? It's all under Porsche.
It's under Porsche now.
No, it's been under Porsche for fucking decades, dude.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when did Porsche buy? Was it in the 60s? Porsche, when they bought Volkswagen Group?
I thought that was recently.
You think so? See, now I got to figure this shit out because Volkswagen Group owned by Porsche. I thought it was early. Either way, I'll figure it out. Porsche SE. Let me see.
I could be looking too, but my computer setup is a little wonky here.
German multinational Porsche, primarily known as Volkswagen Group, with the Porsche Stuttgart company, was founded in Stuttgart, Porsche, 1931. 1937 is when 1937 is the Volkswagen was privatized in 1960 until the Volkswagen Group. Yeah. So they've owned it really since its inception. They became primary stake. In 2005, took an 18% stake in Volkswagen Group, and they just continue increasing it.
Where do you store all this information?
I don't know, dude. It's all worthless information, too.
Well, that's normal for dudes. We got a lot of useless information. It becomes useful at some point, but
so they became a 20% owner under a different company name in the 60s, because of the government thing and them losing and all that shit. And then they slowly started increasing their shit. Anyways.
Well, there's only one way to find out how the Tiguan's going to do.
You have to test it out. Now I'm going to let the Atlas figure that shit out. No, Porsche owns the VW Group. Porsche is one of the stakeholders in the VW Group. And the VW Group is the one that owns Audi and Lamborghini. And
it doesn't matter anyway. We're not going to be owning cars here in the near future.
We're not?
You know, when we were talking a long time ago about licensing and, you know, getting your car registered and, you know, driving under the radar. And I mean, I've been driving a lot of my vehicles lately with expired or no registration. You think of it as a tax.
Oh, that's what happened. Porsche used to own it, and then they merged, so it became more of a merger. So it's Porsche owned by, so it was more of a merger instead of whatever. It doesn't matter.
So
Porsche
yeah, so we think of it as a tax, but in reality, it's a system of control, because as these systems start becoming more centralized and automated. For instance, if you don't have a vaccine, maybe you don't get your car registered. And then you get pulled over and your car gets impounded.
Well, or don't have a business.
Or don't have a business.
You can't get a business license unless you meet certain medical.
Yeah, you're not a threat to the public. You better be vaccinated if you're going to be interacting with the public.
Correct.
You got to show proof of vaccination as a part of your business licensing.
Well, and honestly, this is a big problem. Other than the fact that I'm slowly quicker than most, starting to kick the bucket. So that's a concern, right? So I got to diversify how my income streams are settled, but that was a big push into all of this getting set up with Turo, and now we're slowly going to go off of Turo and just go like an actual rental company and go that direction, and starting a few other businesses, and this idea of regulations on all the fucking businesses and all that shit is pretty fucking crazy. I mean, Tisha was gonna take care of the rental company thing, and she made some phone calls and she figured out what the fuck we need to do and all that. So it's not super duper fucking tough. It's actually pretty fucking easy. But her conclusion was like, they just want to be involved in it. They just want a fucking cut of this shit. They just want to control this fucking enterprise. And if you're dealing with all these people and you're making money off of it, then it's super easy for them to be like, well, we can't let you work because you ain't got the jab, or now you don't have the fucking the fucking measles vaccine. Now you don't have the fucking the syphilis vax and shit like that. Like it's tough.
The AIDS vax.
Yeah, look up who founded the WV group. The WV group. I don't know about WV group.
I know the WB group. That was the Wayans brothers. They founded
the
that
Wayans
group.
brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, we could go back to Hitler and talk about his influence in Porsche, and but I don't want to
say what you want about the Nazis. They sure knew how to engineer stuff.
Oh my god, the Porsche is fucking delicious.
Yeah, guess who helped the Nazis engineer their death camp, their counting of the population? Guess who's
Trump.
not getting canceled, by the way, either?
Trump.
IBM.
Oh yeah, that's right, huh?
Yeah.
Freaking IBM.
International Business Machines. Yes, we count people. I don't know what that accent was. That didn't make any sense.
Russian.
Yeah, so
that's kind of what we talked about a little bit. I know we're hitting a fucking dead end here and we can feel it, but you and I talked about this a little bit, and a lot of it kind of goes back to the Second Amendment as well. Is just this idea why nobody really gets involved in the Second Amendment, why nobody really is that interested in all that stuff. It's just because there's not an immediate need for guns, and people just don't see it as an immediate need for guns. And just like you mentioned, IBM, well, we see an immediate need for computers, because that's how we're communicating right now. That's how you stay engaged with the community, and that's how you stay engaged in all that shit. So people see it. Cars, it's a fucking car, right? We could go back to trains and walking and shit like that, probably be healthier, and build cities that don't require you to fucking drive 40 minutes away from where you live to go to work and shit like that. That would be dope. But we have cars, and there's an immediate need to use this stuff. So you're never going to see anybody pushing for the banning of vehicles for whatever reason. You're never going to see the banning of I mean, Porsche. I mean, I have learned to fall in love with Porsche as of late. And yeah, if we look at their history, like they, even if it was reluctant and they were only playing to not die, they still had a big role in fucking killing Jews and shit like that. Like they still had a role, but everybody's like, it's a fucking Porsche. And I think we could look at the history of a lot of fucking technology that we use right now and be like, who gives a fuck? I use it.
It's a bell curve. A lot of things about human behavior comes down to bell curves. At one end of the bell curve, you have the absolute psychos who want nothing more than just to kill the worst, to do the worst behaviors to everybody.
Yeah.
Those would be your brown shirt, not even your brown shirts, like your actual Goebbels and what's his face, Hess, and those people. And at the other end of the bell curve, you have the hardcore objectors who are going to do anything and everything to resist no matter what the consequences. Then you have everybody in the middle who are just varying degrees of participants. And most people fall in that middle. And if you don't think that you're going to fall in that middle somewhere, you already are. I mean, the way you act, the way you conduct your life. I was saying this on a message board that I'm on the other day. Everything that's about to happen to us, whether it's here in our country or in the world, on some level, we deserve it because we did not earn the prosperity that we currently enjoy. We participated in it, but we haven't earned it. And we've had opportunities to earn it by holding our elected officials and the businesses that support them accountable, but we haven't done it. And so we own part of this chaos that's coming. There's nothing that we can do to avoid it. You get to decide how much you want to participate in it. If you decide you don't want to participate at all in it, that means you're just going to be the first to die. That's my happy message for
to
wrap this up.
Well,
that's the reward for anyone who lived or who stayed on long enough to hear that.
Well, was that your parting words?
Yeah, my parting words. We deserve what's about to happen to us.
Oh, we deserve it.
And that's that's okay. You just got to own it. You just got to reconcile that.
Fucking reconcile that shit.
Nobody's listening. Nobody's saying anything.
I actually want to end it with this. So your homie, Jim Carrey.
I love Jim Carrey.
You super duper love Jim Carrey. I need to get the proper audio. Oh shit! It helps if I turn on the speakers.
Is this him giving one of his stupid speeches?
Can you guys hear that?
Can't hear nothing yet.
Right.
Now I can kind of hear it.
So
it's very echoey.
I'm trying to find it here.
That sounds better, but it's quiet.
Quiet and shit like that. Well, let me see if I can actually find. I'm probably not going to be able to find it now. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to fucking find it anymore. God damn it. Okay.
Was it him giving a speech?
No. Hopefully this is it.
Literally none. You're supposed to say, we're important. You're supposed to say, it's all going to be all right. And you're supposed to say, whatever you dream can come true. And you're supposed to say all those things. I do believe in manifestation, power, that kind of stuff. But I don't believe that any of it matters. This mattering is to me a human construct. I believe in an energy of God, an energy of, everything is divine. There's no thing that isn't divine. Everything is divine, and I'm that. I'm finding that ultimately the freedom from it is something people are kind of hungry for in a way. They're like, I don't want to be me either. Right. And I go, well, great, because you never have been. I believe that I had to become a famous idea and get all the stuff that people dream about and accomplish a bunch of things that look like success in order to give up my attachment to those things. It's been part of the evolution of ego is spend your first half of your life acquiring and adding, thinking you can add to yourself. I mean, it looks great when you got a cool car and you got nice clothes and you've done something that people admire, but it can never fulfill you. You can never be happy. It's not where happiness comes from. And I dealt with depression a few years ago, and people still think, well, he's going through, you can tell he's depressed. And it's not. I have no depression in my life whatsoever. Literally none. I have sadness and joy and elation and satisfaction and gratitude beyond belief. But all of it is weather, and it just spins around the planet. It doesn't sit on me long enough to kill me. So a friend of mine who's a spiritual teacher has a really good take. His name is Jeff Foster, and his take on it is that you should think of the word depressed as deep rest. Deep rest. Your body needs to be depressed. It needs deep rest from the character that you've been trying to play. Great and powerful Oz. I'm the great and powerful Oz. How dare you come near me? And you're just the sweaty guy behind the curtain. It's an amazing metaphor in that movie.
That was the last portion of it, and I heard it in a different context. It wasn't actually this one, but it still worked. When I heard that, I usually think of Jim Carrey just as this fucking crazy lunatic, right? Until you start to actually listen to what they're actually saying, outside of when they're being super duper fucking retarded. And that's a lot of people. And all I heard was a deep rest portion of it, and that's he elaborated a little bit more. Is just this idea that we're always trying to be something we're not, and your body's just trying to tell you, knock that shit off. Like, you're gonna be depressed now because you are trying to be something you are not. You're not meeting those expectations because it's not who you are. And for me, that's all. It's not something new for me, but like the way I've always seen it is just like I could only be myself. That's why very few people actually tolerate me and like me and stuff like that, because I've always chosen to just be myself. And that's why I don't have many people who are friends, right? But like that shit just makes sense. It just like there's a lot of people who are just stuck on that depression level, and it's just like, well, it's just when Jim Carrey said that, it's just like it kind of made sense, because the only times when I ever get depressed really is when I'm trying to do stuff that's just not me, trying to accomplish stuff that just doesn't fit with what I want to do. Whether it be going places or whether it be buying stuff or falling into traps or whatever. Like, it's usually when I'm outside of where I know I need to be. That's usually when I get that depression. So like it clicked. It's just like that shit fucking, and the way he worded it was just pretty magnificent. When he talks about his dad, is pretty spectacular too.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I am a pretty even person. I don't get depressed very easily.
Yeah.
But I am certainly depressed right now.
Yeah.
But part of it comes from the loss of something that I thought was mine to have.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty safe assumption. It's not like I'm asking for something that most people don't expect, but in all reality, I don't really have the right to ask for it.
Correct.
Or to expect it. I have the right to ask for it. I don't have the right to expect it.
Yeah.
But that loss of attachment to something that you thought that was yours to have is, man, it's rough, man. It's really, really rough. And I'm not concerned. I'm not like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be depressed forever. I know at some point it will be over. But it's certainly made worse by my attachment to it. And I'm making it worse. It's not just happening to me. I'm definitely making it worse, but I'm doing it out of a place of like thinking that I have some control over it.
Correct.
That
portion right there, the last shit that you just said, like I talk about it in the context of classes sometimes when I tell students, but I've mentioned this to many people. It's just like every time you have a problem, like who's there? That's the question. Every time there's a problem, who's there? And you could only come up with one conclusion. Every time I have a problem, it is me. Even if it's not you that presents the problem initially, it's often that what you just said right there. It's often me that's making it worse and really prolonging the fucking problem from existing. Because
you really, what it boils down to, I think, is you're prolonging the suffering that you're going through.
Yeah.
Because of your participation in it.
Yeah.
And your participation it's not necessarily external. A lot of it is mental. A lot of it's internal. But like perhaps the actions that I take would not be making it worse if they were coming from a different place.
Correct.
The fact that I do consider myself a pretty even person who doesn't get down very easily is partly because I can detach a lot of my feelings from the outcome of a situation. I'm pretty content in a lot of situations to just do my part and let go of the outcome.
Yeah.
In this particular case, it's a lot closer to home, and it's much harder to do that.
Yeah.
And so, Jim Carrey did the Man on the Moon movie, and it really sent him on this wild ride. And if you listen to typical people, they were like, "Well, he believes that nobody should have guns." Blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm just gonna listen to what he's talking about, and he seems like a really interesting person. I love interesting people. I love people who come at things from a very different point of view. Tyson, Bill Burr is getting a lot of heat right now for being like, whipped. He's one of those people to me that come. Joe Rogan's another one. He comes at things from a very different point of view. I don't agree with probably most of what he says, and sometimes I'm like, dude, this guy's kind of an idiot, But but the way he's approached his life is very different. My close friends are really nothing like me, and that's what I like about them.
Yeah.
So watching him say that's interesting to me. I want to know more about that. I don't have to agree with somebody's politics to get something interesting out of them. But I think that we definitely get it's natural that we get attached to what's going on around us, but that's not the key to happiness. And if your life really is limited to just your experience on this earth, why would you spend it being depressed about things that you can't control?
Correct. And have you listened to the one about his dad?
No, I haven't.
That was good. He was going to graduation speech, and he was talking about how his dad was a much better comic than he ever was, and that had his dad just done the comedic thing, we'd be talking about his dad right now and his shitty little son. But instead, he chose the safe route.
Mm-hmm.
And feed the kids and do that stupid shit, right? The retarded shit. And then at the end, he ended up getting laid off, and still lost a job, and still couldn't feed the fucking kids, and still couldn't because he got laid off. So the message was like, you can fucking lose it all pursuing your fucking dreams, or you can lose it all doing the shit that you hate. And it's that is just we have that kind of it's that connected shit to the shit that the temporary, right? Like it's that happy. I've always looked at the word happy for what's happening right now. I forget who taught me this, and it made a lot of sense. Is kind of the root word is like it's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not joy. Like joy is the long run. It's the shit that we should really be looking, because everybody wants to be happy. But happy is attached to like it's right now. Like this right now is make me snacks make me happy because like right now. But later on, I'm gonna feel shit because I'm fat, right? It doesn't bring me joy. It's just like it's filling a void of right now. I'm bored or whatever, but it makes me happy though. But it doesn't make me joyful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very easy to get caught up in that trap of what makes me happy. What I think makes me happy as opposed to what fulfills me or at least doesn't make me miserable.
Yeah.
But like I've been driving this car around that I really enjoyed. I told my wife the other day, I was like, if this car were to get wrecked in the next week and I never got to drive it again, I'd still be happy because I got to drive it for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I was awesome.
Yeah.
And I know none of this is permanent, and it's just kind of a silly example, but
Correct.
I have been wanting a car like this for like 20 years, and I've been driving shit boxes for like 20 years, just patiently waiting, knowing someday the day would come where I could buy a car guilt-free and just enjoy it, And if it goes away, it goes away.
And
you
it's
know,
a
but
fucking Audi. What is it?
A4 wagon,
A4 wagon.
white.
We're not talking about fucking Lambo here.
No, dude. In fact, I'd be uncomfortable driving something like that. I would. I'd be worried I was going to die or get arrested in it, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's modest for again, get back to
Super
relativity. Modest for me, modest for. But the idea is like enjoy it for what it is in the moment, knowing that there's no guarantees in the future about anything. You're lucky you got this far. You know,
fucking lucky.
You're lucky to experience any happiness at all because life is hard. Life is difficult.
It sucks.
It doesn't suck. Come on,
It
man.
sucks. It fucking sucks. There's this video that I watched and it was fucking hilarious. And it starts off by just saying like, what the fuck? Like, I can't afford to live. I'm not even having a good time. What the fuck is this adulting thing all about?
Yeah. I saw a meme the other day that said being an adult is saying, quote, things will start to slow down after next week for the rest of your life.
Shit. Next week.
Speaking of next week, we should be back next week, Monday, August 9th. Hopefully we'll be regular again. Got to eat our Metamucil. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this interesting episode. Hopefully it was interesting. There's no more comments. I think everybody left.
Everybody fucking left. There's only 8 people on right now. That's between YouTube, Facebook. So I'm assuming it's just my wife and kids.
But thank you, everybody, for joining us. Gunsforeveryone.com, gunsforeveryonnational.com. And
GFEnational.com.
Oh, GFEnational.com. And that was the other thing. I finally remembered the other thing on Reddit that was not true. Somebody posted something about Guns for Everyone National. It says, did you know that these jokers have hired Rob Pincus, the guy who thinks that we should be doing expanded background checks?
Oh my God.
And I was like, I came on there and I was like, actually, we have not hired Rob Pincus because we can't afford him. But if we could, we would hire him in a heartbeat.
A fucking heartbeat.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. You got any parting plugs, disclaimers?
No. We're here. Tell people about us. Honestly, 100%. I think if more people knew about us and this was, if you guys were proud of us and you promoted us, we could do this a little bit more regular. So do that. The ones that are in here, you guys are here all the time and support us, and I appreciate that. But if you keep us all to yourself, we cannot move forward in this motherfucker.
Evangelize.
All right, motherfuckers, wash your ass. Peace out.
Peace.